What's up, Cigar family? This is Joe and Trey.
And this is the Leaf and Life Podcast, Episode 2.
Episode 2.
Hey, we're
Rocking
moving
along.
up.
Yeah, man.
So, have you smoked anything notable since the last episode?
I have. I smoked a couple of really good ones yesterday. As you know, we were at the Silverleaf Cigar Lounge.
It's a good time.
Yeah, good time. And we smoked the Crow by Blackbird. That's a
The
good
box
smoke.
press.
Yes, the box press. And then on Friday night, I smoked the Artero Fuente for Fuente Friday. I smoked the Double Chateau. That's a good one.
Nice, that's a good one.
Surprised me just because it's, it always surprises me every time I smoke it just because it's a full flavored cigar, even though it's a lighter wrapper.
Right. Yeah, I smoked the Aganorsa Arsenio, I think Monday. That one's pretty good. Had a nice pepper bite to it. And then the Dias de Glorias Brazil from AJ, which is that that same blend but with the Brazilian wrapper on it.
Gotcha.
That's pretty good. What are you smoking today?
So today I am smoking the Exteli from Karenberger Cigars. How about you? What are you smoking?
I'm going with the Michelef Purple from their Color series. Good. I mean, they're inexpensive, but they're good quality cigar.
Yeah. And we're also pairing that today with Angel's Envy.
Nice. Cheers, my friend.
Time. Yes, sir.
It's been a while since I've had that one.
Yeah, I know. Me too. So today we're going to be going over basically Cigars 101. Help out beginners, noobs to the cigar smoking lifestyle, and we're going to be talking about cigar basics. So lighting a cigar, cigar storage, types of cigars. We even have a little cigar reference guide we're going to show you here in a minute. The whole 9 yards.
Just the basic stuff. Even if you're a seasoned smoker, stick around and watch. If you see something or notice something we missed or want to add, comment below. Hopefully there's still something in there. Look, you get something in there for you.
Yeah, and not only that, but support us. We're new, so stick around, support us, watch till the end, like, subscribe, and we'd love to have you subscribe to our channel so you can see new stuff that's coming out. Anyways, do you want to talk about the different types of cutters?
So there's three main styles of cutting. There's a straight cut, a V, and a punch. There are some other kind of out there stuff that I don't think we really need to talk about. I've seen some weird things. Generally, with the straight cut, that's probably the one you can get in the most trouble with if you don't have what they call the perfect cutter, which has a backing on it, so you can't put the cigar too deep in there. Like a lot of them you can put it in as far as you want. If you cut too much of the cap off, your cigar will unravel and can hinder your smoking experience. A punch and a V cut are pretty hard to mess up. Biggest thing with any of them is making sure your cutter's sharp. But with the punch, you don't want to just twist back and forth. You want to, just go in one direction until it cuts through, pop the little piece of the leaf out, and then you're good to go.
I see a lot of guys, they'll take the punch and they'll jam it in there and then they'll twist the cigar around. And what happens is that actually twists the cap sometimes.
Yeah. And
it'll make for a less enjoyable smoking experience. And then what are you going to use to
I'm going to go with a straight, which I got this, it's a perfect cut. Like you can see, it doesn't go all the way through. You just stick it in there and it makes it foolproof.
Yep. And then I like using a V-cut. This is a lighter. I'm using a Karenberger lighter since I'm smoking a Karenberger cigar. But this is a V-cut, and V-cuts are kind of like perfect cuts as well because you can only stick them in so far in order to, it won't let you go but so far to get that V.
Just do be careful, because I was in a shop a few weeks ago and used one of their cutters. It was a V cut, and I didn't realize it was a very deep V cut. And I had a smaller cigar, and it took a chunk out of it,
Yeah.
and I was just like, oh shit.
And this is actually a very deep V, which is why to cut, I'm actually going with just a little cheap cutter, but it's a little more shallow. And, I enjoy that. So to cut it, basically just stick it in however you want it to go, and then just give it a good squeeze.
And same thing with the straight. And see, it just cuts off a little piece of the cap, and you're good to go. And I like to use a punch on things like the flatheads, or the Roma Craft Neanderthals, the red meat lovers, something with the flat cap or a flat head, or even just a regular Parejo. You don't really, you can use them on a torpedo, but it's a little tougher, just because of the nature of the cigar.
And then, so on to lighting.
Lighting. So again, there's three, well, I guess four technically. So you got your soft flame lighters, which you can get refillable ones. You can use a Bic lighter, any kind. The big thing, you don't want to use a Zippo with the old school type lighter fluid, because that can impart flavor to your cigar that you don't really want. But Bics are filled with butane. Then there's the torches, which is probably the most popular, which you can get anywhere from 1 to 4 flames in a torch. And then, or you can always go wood and matches. Biggest thing with matches is when you light it, you want to let that sulfur burn off for just a second. Make sure the wood actually catches before you put it to your cigar. And then probably the most classy thing is the cedar spill, where you light it with whatever you got to light it with, let that catch fire, and then you light your cigar with that. And I mean, it can be a mess too. You got ash going all over the place from the cedar. And
So I'm going to go ahead and let you light up first, because I think we light up different ways. There's multiple ways, however you want to light up.
I'm going to go, this is it's a triple flame torch, which usually for the initial light, I like to use, at least a double to quad. I mean, either way, you got to be careful. You don't want to get the flame too close to your cigar when you're using a torch. So you light it, and then I just kind of twist it, try to get the edges, what they call toasted. As you can see, it's not all the way lit, but it's kind of going. Again, make sure you're not too close. And we're lit. I don't know if the camera really picks it up, but it's going now.
So one thing we forgot to talk about is, after we cut, I normally like to do a
I did it, but I didn't think to say something about it.
Yeah, and I like to pick up a little bit of the flavors beforehand. And then, normally what I do is same thing. I have a 3 torch, and I do the same thing. I just toast it. I toast mine a little bit longer. I don't use the torch to light it once I am drawing on it. So I do the same thing. I just twist it. Blow on it. See the nice red cherry. As you can see, it's perfectly lit. So there's different ways, and it kind of just all depends on, what you like. And the good thing about cigars is it's kind of a do what you like type situation. There's no right or wrong. There might be some cigar snobs out there that say that there is a right or a wrong, but what I always say about cigars is smoke what you like and enjoy it.
Exactly.
And do it the way you like to do it, and don't worry about what people think about you.
That's like, even I was thinking about it earlier, thinking about stuff we're going to talk about when it comes to cutting. We were at, I think it was around Christmas time one year. We were at some family's house, and I didn't bring cigars because I just didn't think I was going to have an opportunity to smoke. but they had given me a cigar for I'm pretty sure it was around Christmas, and I didn't have it. I think I had a lighter in the car, like just a Bic or something, but didn't have anything to cut it with. So I was like, oh, now I kind of want to smoke a cigar since I have one. Like, and I took a toothpick and poked holes around the cap until it had enough so I could peel the cap off. And I mean, it wasn't pretty, but it worked.
Yeah.
I mean, you can, like I said, you can just use a knife. You got a good sharp knife, a razor blade. I mean, there's tons of ways to do it if you're resourceful enough and
Yeah.
and really want to smoke.
We have a friend of ours and a member that's part of our cigar club, and that's all he uses is a knife, and he just clips it off with a knife. Back in the day, farmers used to take their fingernail. They keep one fingernail long, and they dig their fingernail into the end of it, or take an actual nail or a screw and stick it to the end of it. There's lots of different ways. Those are things I don't recommend, but if that's what you got and it gets you smoking a cigar, then do it that way. But like a cutter like this, I buy a 5-pack of these cheap cutters so I could take it to a shop, and if I leave it there, I don't have to worry about it. But a cutter like this, I want to say it's a 5 or 6-pack for like less than $15. So when they don't keep a sharp edge very long, but you could cut probably 30 to 40 cigars before you start to notice a difference. And for the price, you can't really beat it.
Yeah.
Whereas, when you're getting something a little bit more expensive, this is a $70 lighter. When you're looking at, spending that kind of money, now it comes with the cutter and the lighter. So, I mean, it makes it a little bit more worth it. But when you're talking about more expensive stuff, it's just, it's kind of, for new people, they may not have the money. My philosophy is I'd always rather spend the money on cigars than on the accessories.
Right.
I've been smoking cigars for a long time, so I have a lot of accessories now that,
Yeah, you collect stuff over the years.
You win stuff, so, and you get some good loot when you go to cigar shops, and when there's if there's a rep in house, or they're doing a giveaway or something like that, a lot of times you'll get some pretty decent loot. I think yours was a freebie, wasn't it?
Yeah, this was part of one of the Drew Estate Freestyle Live packs, and it's a good solid cutter, and it's a little rest also. It's got a little kind of divot there. You can just put your cigar when you're not smoking it, or when you want to set it down. Oh, with the talking about those being cheap, and you only get a certain amount of cuts out of them. Even the expensive things, they do dull over time. Like I had a Zycar, one of the XI cutters, it's a really nice cutter, but I used it for 3-4 years straight, and then it was even just a couple months ago. I was like, man, every time I smoke a cigar, my cap's splitting. I was like, I don't know what's going on. I like my storage is good, my humidity is good, and then as I was cutting one day, I realized I'm like, oh, I don't think this cutter's good anymore. And then I switched to a different cutter and have not had any problems since then.
Yeah. I don't use this cutter that much on this lighter because it is very, very deep. And I feel like sometimes, depending on the cigar, it goes too far into the cap and it will start to unravel. So I've learned that. I'd rather, change up cutters and have an enjoyable smoke than have one that cuts a little bit too far into it and starts up, get floaters, tobacco pieces that start floating around in your mouth or whatever it may be. But, so it's all about preference. It's all about your preference, and that's what we recommend, is doing what you enjoy and what you like and what's best for you. You want to go on to storage?
Yeah. Again, it seems like there's like 3 different things for every topic. 3 main things. So you got your classic wooden humidors. We're just calling plastic, which is your Tupperware, your coolers, your little herfadors, things like that. And then there's electric, which is what people started doing years ago, was taking the wine coolers and then converting them to cigar storage, which now there's companies selling them straight up for they called wineadors, and they're selling them just ready to go. Which there's pros and cons to everything. Wood obviously looks great. It's nice to have a desktop humidor, or like Joe has a big cabinet humidor here. Like I said, it looks good. The Spanish cedar in it can help impart flavor, helps with aging, things like that, controlling humidity. Plastic humidors are pretty much foolproof if you use the right humidification. They almost always seal well. You don't have to worry about them as much and fuss with them. When you got a wooden humidor, there's more humidification loss depending on ambient temperature and humidity and all that good stuff.
And you do have to pre-season it. When you're
Yes,
using
you got to
wood,
season.
you have to season a humidor in order to have it be able to keep the humidity in the box. So
Yeah,
um,
that could almost be a whole other podcast.
yeah, it really could actually. And then what do you? So I like Trey was having. I have several. Trey was saying I have several wooden humidors. I have probably 4 desktop humidors, ranging in different sizes, and then I have a big cabinet humidor that's like a 3,000 count, uh, big floor to ceiling style cabinet. And then Trey, what do you have?
In the over 10 years I've been smoking, I have never owned a wooden humidor. I have nothing against them. I just don't want to get a little cheap one. That's not going to, that's going to just be problems. Like, I'll get one at some point, probably a desktop or something, or like, maybe one day I'll have a walk in. But I've done pretty much plastic. And when I first started smoking, I was only buying maybe, I might have 5 cigars on hand, so I just get a little small Tupperware thing with the Bavita pack in it, which we'll talk about humidification more in a minute. Um, then I went to a bigger Tupperware thing, and then I started using that for just keeping other stuff and went to a cooler. And I've been using a Koolador for the past, I don't know, 6 or 7 years at least, which I've actually just recently kind of outgrew that. And I just got a big plastic bin and started putting more, boxes in that and trying to like have my singles and just random stuff in the cooler. But like I said, it's foolproof for the
And
most part.
and so in a cooler, just so people can realize, I have a big humidor and several smaller humidors, but in a cooler, you can still keep the same amount of cigars in there.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean, you have
there's I
just
don't
as much
know.
or
I
more than
got
I do.
7 or 8 different boxes in there and tons of singles, and I have them. Some of them in Ziploc bags, some of them in just in old boxes. And I did when I set up my cooler. I took some of the like you get the thin cedar sheets in a lot of boxes, and then some of them that I could tell the boxes were actual Spanish cedar, and I broke them down into just sheets and laid them in the bottom and put a couple around the edges just so I'd still get a little bit of that wood in there.
Yeah, having the Spanish cedar is good for aging the cigars.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you have a wood humidor, the inside should be made of Spanish cedar, which is going to help with aging cigars. If you're like us and you like to collect as well as smoke, and then or placing Spanish cedar inside of a cooler or a plastic humidor, whether it be Tupperware or whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
does the same thing. And then, the one that has gained a lot of popularity over the last several years has been the Koolador, which is the Winador or whatever you want to call it, but it's the electric version of it. And it has its place, especially if you're in an area where it gets real hot or real cold. Some of them
Yeah.
cool and some of them heat for you as well. So if you have it out, like I have a man cave, my man cave is heated and cooled, so it's not necessarily doesn't affect that much. But some people have a man cave and it may be a garage, so it may be affected by the cold weather, which will dry out your cigars. And so having one that does heat does help. um, that being said, a lot of times when you look at these electric humidors, it'll say, hey, this is a 300 count. Well, it ends up being this little tiny thing. Yeah, you might be able to fit 300 singles in there, but you're not
Right.
fitting any boxes in there. So always, when you're buying those, always check the dimensions just to make sure the inside dimensions and make sure that you are getting something that you think you're getting. Otherwise, um, you may get something a lot smaller. I've had several friends that have gotten those over the years, and uh, they always immediately, well, within 2 months, usually they'll get a bigger one, or they'll go back to a wooden humidor or a cooler or something like that because they just don't fit what they say they fit. So, and that's really any humidor when you really think about
Right.
it. But they're especially small for what they say they fit.
With storage is humidification.
Yeah.
Cigars, you can't just put cigars in your nightstand drawer and expect it to be good in 2 months. Um, so as you know, like whatever storage method you choose, you want to make sure it's properly humidified. The general, like I guess the old school kind of rule of thumb was 70 degrees, 70% humidity. That's fine for some people. Some people like it different. You don't want to go any higher than 70%, but you can take it all the way down to 60. And again, that depends on the type of cigars you like. If you smoke all Connecticut's, that's a thinner wrapper. You probably want to keep a higher humidity because they can be a little more brittle. If you're smoking Maduros, stuff like that, more of that, you can go a little lower, and they'll probably smoke a little better. Like I use 65% Bevitas in all my stuff, and I'm even thinking about dropping down to 62s. I think you keep yours around, you said 68?
Yeah, mine
before?
stays between 67 68. So,
But again, he's got the bigger the bigger wooden humidor. So that way there's a little more fluctuation and stuff like that than versus, like I said, I keep a cooler. It's got a pretty tight seal. I got 6 or 7 Bevitas scattered throughout it, and it keeps it pretty good. Bevitas probably the easiest way for especially smaller humidors, Tupperware, stuff like that, because they're 2-way. If you're not familiar with them, they're not expensive. So you can, when they dry out, if you want, you can just buy more and replace them. They're not, I don't think the manufacturer recommends it, but you can recharge them. We ever get sponsored, we might change this this tone. But you can put them in a container with some distilled water, and they will recharge. Um, there's other different things. There's humidification beads, which are the same. A lot of them are 2-way, but they require a little more maintenance. You got to check, you got to add water to them, and make sure they're not over humidifying, that kind of stuff. There's the gels, the stuff that comes with sometimes you buy a humidor. A lot of times those aren't really as reliable. But yeah, then the electric stuff like the Cigar Oasis, things like that. That's for if you got something big like a big cabinet or a walk-in humidor, you're gonna want something like that.
yeah. So in my big one, in my little ones, I use the Bevita packs. In the big cabinet, I have what they call a Cigar Oasis, which is it's a it's using the beads. So what you do is you put distilled water in there, and it makes the beads expand, and then it actually has a fan on it, and then it blows through the beads, and then forces the humid air out uh, into the cigars into the cabinet, and then it has its own little controller on it. So I set that controller where I want it, and it'll turn on and off when it needs to. It has a sensor, and it will turn on and off to keep the cabinet, uh, where it needs to be. And I have the sensor up 3 shelves higher than I do the actual Cigar Oasis, so that this way, it's not blowing right on top of it. Otherwise, you wouldn't get really good readings and it wouldn't work correctly. So you want to keep them separate. In different shelves, I do also use Bevita packs in there as well, because different shelves sometimes don't get as much humidification, depending on how many cigars you have, because it has little slits in each of the shelves in that humidor, and it's supposed to make its way through the slits. But if I have them packed with boxes and cigars, it may not reach all the way to the top or all the way to the bottom, depending on the situation. It does a pretty good job for something that size. You either want to put sensors in there, which is it's a little Bluetooth sensor that you put in, and then you can look on your phone, and it will tell you what your humidity is and what your temperature is inside your humidor. Or you can get hygrometers.
Hydrometers, yeah.
Yeah.
You can get a standalone hydrometer. You can get the dial ones. You get them digital. The biggest thing, just calibrate it. And I found the easiest way: get a Bevita pack, throw it in a Ziploc bag with the Bovita, get as much air out as possible, let it sit for a couple days, and if it's reading, you want to see how far off the reading is from what the Bovita pack's set at, and then like, so say you put it in with the 65. If it's reading 65, your hydrometer's on point. If it's reading 62, then it's reading, a couple degrees below what it's supposed to. So you then you go from there.
Yeah, and some of the hygrometers you can actually adjust.
Yeah,
so
you can.
after,
You can change it if you realize it's off. Then you can adjust it.
Yeah.
And then another thing to keep in mind when you're setting up your stuff is humidity rises. So if you've got a big cabinet like that, or you're putting in like a cooler, I put most of my Bovitas along the bottom. Sometimes I'll just drop it in there in between a box or something and just let it fall wherever it falls. But most of it's on the bottom, so I know it's rising through the cooler. Or like Joe's, his Oasis is on the bottom, and it rises up through the cabinet.
How's that cigar?
It's pretty good. So these are interesting because it's a Mexican San Andreas Sumatra wrapper, which I've always liked the Sumatra wrapper, and most of the time when you think San Andreas, it's a Maduro, but these are really good, nice creamy note to it.
It's very surprising.
Mm-hmm.
I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah.
The Exteli is awesome. Karen Berger, for those of you that don't know, Karen Berger cigars, they are a boutique brand. They make amazing cigars. It's just one of those things where when I found the brand, I absolutely fell in love with the brand. So I talk about them and I push them a lot.
Mm-hmm.
They don't pay us anything. This is just truly a good brand, and it's a great company and great people behind the company. They truly value their customers.
They really do.
And they've we've not become customers of theirs, but I feel like we've become family.
Yeah.
Her and Bruce, the vice president. Karen is the owner of the company. Bruce is the vice president, and they've both been here to the man cave, and they're from Daytona Beach, Florida, and they've come here and hung out with us, smoking cigars, and just because they value their customers, and they happen to be here at an event, and we invited them to come and hang out with us after the event, and they did. And it just goes to show you that they're willing to take time out for their customers to make them part of their family.
Yeah, they're really, really great people.
And I have not had a bad cigar from them. This is her newest release as of right now. I think they're coming out with some new ones soon. But the Exteli, that is her newest release.
It's a Nicaraguan Puro.
Yes, and to me, it's very creamy. It is on the lighter side, but it's super, super smooth and really enjoyable. Another new one that they just came out with is the Halftime. And
that's an excellent cigar.
That's probably one of the best cigars I've had in a while. So it's a limited. So if you're watching this, run out and go to their website and order a Karen Berger Halftime. Amazing cigar. Anyways, enough for my shameless plugs. We're gonna
something real quick that didn't add to the notes, but just made me think about it because I just ashed all over myself. Ash in a cigar. Everybody likes to have a big ash and try to see, big ash contests are always cool, but when you do ash a cigar, now mine's, like I said, just fell off and it's all over my lap right now. You just want to kind of roll it along the edge of the ashtray. Now, have I tapped it and knocked it off? I do it all the time. Is the end of the world? Usually not, but sometimes you can just knock the whole cherry off, and then you got to start over and lighten the whole thing.
That's why we just laughed, because
yeah,
we both saw it happen. And that is the reason why I light my cigars the way I do, with just doing the toasting and not doing the big flame. I feel like I could get a stronger, thicker ash, and so it lasts a lot longer.
And a lot of times it just depends on the cigar itself too. Some cigars are prone to it, the way they're rolled or bound. I don't know which one. Obviously you want to have, it's got to be a long filler cigar. You're not going to get a long ash out of a short filler.
Exactly.
But most of them are designed to hold on to a half to an inch, and then they'll fall off. And a lot of times you can tell, but I just wasn't paying attention.
Actually, one short filler that holds an ash, you probably know what I'm going to say, is the Popetta.
Yeah, well, it does have a little bit of long filler in it.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
it does, that does help. But yeah, but that is a what they call a cubit sandwich cigar, which is that's another one. It's an excellent cigar. Excellent. It's small, it's a short smoke. I mean, it does take you longer than you think, but it's from Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust, and it's kind of the cuttings from all their best cigars with some extra long filler, and I'm pretty sure it's a broadleaf wrapper on it.
Yeah, excellent cigar.
Yeah.
I had never had one. Trey turned me on to it, and I was impressed. And we ended up splitting a box of them.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so the next thing that we want to go over is we want to go over cigar vitolas and shades of wrappers and so on and so forth. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have Trey get up by the Cigar Reference guide, and I'm going to go ahead and work the camera. So if you give us just a second, we will make that transition.
All right, we're back. Clean myself up. Sorry about that. So Joe got this. They were down visiting Ybor. They did the tour of the J.C. Newman factory and got this pretty cool little poster. It has all the different sizes, at least most of them. Probably one of the most popular is the Robusto. You also got your Petite Corona, Perfectos, which Perfecto for me is more of a shape than a size. You can get Perfectos in all kinds of different sizes. The Torpedo, the Bellicoso, they're pretty close to the same thing. Corona Gorda, Pantella, the Toro, Double Toro, the Culebra, which I've always thought is a really cool cigar. There's a whole big long story behind those. You got a Lonsdale, the Churchill, which obviously was named after Winston Churchill. That's the size he liked to smoke. The Salamones, however you say that one. A Lancero, which is one of my personal favorites, and then the Double Coronas, which are huge cigars. Which one time I accidentally ordered a 5-pack off Cigar Bid. So I didn't realize they were Double Coronas, and I mean it was almost the size of my forearm.
So tell them why the Lancero is one of your favorite.
The Lancero, it's I mean they're usually 38 by up to 42 ring gauge and about right around 7 inches long. So there's not as much binder and filler in them, so you get more of that wrapper flavor. And it just and it's more like you gotta concentrate when you're smoking a Lancero, because you don't want to hotbox it and smoke it too fast or smoke it too slow and have it go out on you. Then there's you got the different parts of the tobacco plant. The Seco, the Viso, it all depends on like where it grows on the plant. The Ligero, that's where you get most of your strength from in a cigar. And then Corona, that one's new to me. I never realized there was actually a leaf called Corona. The way a cigar is made, you got your filler, your binder, and then the wrapper is put on at the end, and then usually some kind of cap up to a triple cap. The different types of leaf, and I guess the different fermentation and maturing processes of the leaf. So I mean they can all be the same leaf, but you got your Candela, which stays green. Usually those are normally used as a wrapper, which I like a Candela from time to time. You get a little more of that vegetal, like grassy notes to them. Your Shade, which is mostly Connecticut's, that's your lighter stuff. The Colorado Claro, which is a little bit lighter, more of a reddish hue. The Colorado, and then the Colorado Maduro, which is, again, get a little darker. Your classic Maduro, and then the Oscuro, which sometimes are almost like look black. Can't think of any specific. Probably like Liga Privadas, I think use Oscuro a lot. So those are probably the most classic thing of that. And then there's all kinds of places tobacco comes from. Obviously, there's Cuba that we aren't supposed to get here in America. All kinds of places through Latin America. You got Brazil, Costa Rica, Colombia, Nicaragua, obviously it's the most famous one. Dominican Republic, the Honduras, different places in Mexico. There is still plenty of tobacco being grown in the United States. You got Connecticut. There's stuff coming out of Florida, Pennsylvania. Cameroons come from Africa, and then you got your Sumatra, which was traditionally from Indonesia, but obviously, their seeds are being grown other places now. And then all the different ring gauges, they're from 32. I mean, they got 90s and 100s now, which to me is ridiculous. But like we said earlier, smoke what you like and like what you smoke.
That is true. So, do you have a specific region or country that you prefer your tobacco to come from?
Probably Nicaragua, honestly. I mean, there's some good stuff out of the Dominican as well. Those are probably the two main for what they call New World cigars. I've had some Cubans that are great. I don't know that they're worth the price anymore, especially for what the prices are going for now. And just for what you got to go through to get them. For me personally, it's just not worth it. When there's plenty of good cigars that you can get just as easy and less expensive coming out of other countries. But then, and like I was saying earlier, with that cigar, I do like a lot of the San Andreas stuff. So but for the most part, it's Nicaragua for me.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
I find that most cigars that I really, really enjoy are from Nicaragua,
Yeah.
or at least majority.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add before we switch
I
back
think
over?
that's probably it for that. I guess we can.
All right. And we're back.
Guess that about wraps this episode up. I'm just trying to do some research on cigar news stuff. Didn't see a whole lot of new release stuff coming out this time. The biggest thing that I saw an article that I don't know, like I said, this has been something that's been kind of ongoing the past 11 years or so, 10 years with the FDA, which was a real big thing. I think when it first popped up in 2016, like everybody was scared they weren't going to get new cigars. But they are the Cigar Association of America. There's a big lawsuit with the FDA with premium cigars, so they're trying to change the definition of what premium cigars are. Like the FDA put in the definition of it, and it's very, very limiting. Um, and they're trying to kind of expand it a little bit. I mean, it's a lot to it if you want to research it and look into it yourself. It's some interesting stuff, but I don't want to get too far into it here. But it is something we all need to be wary of. The Cigar Rights Association of America is a good organization. You can join for like $25. They do sell like a sampler pack too. That's a lot of good cigars in it. And it helps support, they support the companies and, our rights as cigar smokers.
Anything else you want to add? We're about wrapped up here.
I think that's probably about it for today.
Okay. And well, we appreciate you guys joining us. Hopefully we weren't too long-winded, but we want to get this out there because I know as a newbie, back when I started smoking, we didn't have YouTube. We didn't have things where we could just sit in the privacy of our own home and learn about cigars. We had to go to a local lounge or local shop and ask questions, and a lot of times that's a little bit intimidating. Yeah, and trial and error and stuff like that. So, all that being said, having YouTube, having the internet allows us to do a little bit more research before we dive into getting into cigars. And so actually I do want to ask you one more question. What would you say, what keeps you smoking cigars?
What keeps me smoking cigars? I mean, a lot of times I smoke by myself on my porch in the evenings, and it's just some time to myself to unwind at the end of the day. It slows you down. You sit there and you think about the cigar. Sometimes I'm messing around on my phone, I'm watching TV or whatever. But then other than that, it's the camaraderie, it's the culture. I love coming over here, hanging out. We go to events, we go do things. Like yesterday, we took our wives and we went to a cigar shop and hung out for the day. Went and had dinner, and it was a great day. Which without cigars, we might have went to dinner or something, but we wouldn't. We'd only hung out for an hour or two versus half the day.
Yeah.
But yeah, what about you?
Same thing. Yeah. I mean, obviously the main thing is a cigar just makes me relax. And I think we're watching, so back in 2015, they they did a little video of the guy, Mr. Overton, the guy that was 109 years old at that point in time. He was the oldest living World War II veteran.
Yeah.
And he lived to be 112 years old. And one of the things that he talked about is he drank a glass of whiskey and smoked up to 12 cigars a day.
Yeah.
But one of his things that he said is it just keeps him right. It makes, to me, the relaxation, the hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes that it takes me to smoke this cigar is an hour and 45 minutes of concentrating on the cigar or enjoying a friend's companionship or whatever it may be. But there might be some times where I may just sit here and just relax.
Yeah.
And I may not think about a whole lot. In the hustle and bustle of today's world that we live in, having that, we'll just mark off 2-hour time frame to just sit back, relax, and whether it be enjoy friends or just chill out by yourself. Sometimes you need that.
Yeah,
and,
definitely.
But most of all, like you said, the camaraderie is definitely an awesome point. The cigar is what they call the great equalizer. So you could be a plumber. I'm a pest control guy, and I could talk to a guy that owns a multi-million-dollar corporation. And
yeah, doctors, lawyers, like all walks of life smoke cigars.
Yeah. So we all walk into that cigar shop. We put a cigar in our hand, and it's a great equalizer. Everybody is equal. It doesn't matter what color you are. It doesn't matter your background. It doesn't matter what you do for a living. It's the great equalizer, and that's another thing that I really enjoy about cigars is we all have something in common. And so that was something that I was wanting to ask you. Just to, I know, but just to let other people know the reason why we smoke cigars.
Yeah. One thing I want to add real quick. I know in the last episode we talked a lot about our Facebook group. If for whatever reason, I know a lot of people don't do social media stuff. If you're looking for an online community, there's a forum that I started at years ago. It's Cigarbumcom. It's a smaller forum, so it's a great tight knit group of guys and some girls, but they're very welcoming. So if you're looking for that online community and you don't do social media stuff, check them out.
Definitely. If you are part of Facebook, this is the Light 'em Up Cigar Club. Is our Facebook cigar club, and there is a QR code right there. So if you want to scan that QR code, that will take you right to the club. And it's a great club, and again, another way to learn more about cigars and to also learn more about the cigars that other people are smoking.
Yeah.
And you could ask questions. We'd love to have you as a member. And again, for our podcast, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell so that you get notifications when we post new videos.
Yeah. Drop a comment, something you want to see us talk about. If there's a cigar you'd like to see us smoke and give a review on, just let us know what you guys want. We're here for you.
Yeah, exactly. We appreciate you guys joining us tonight. And
thank you.
Light them up.
Keep them lit. We love you.